Hello Blend Squad, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, you're welcome. My name is Rosina Sharon, and today we're going to talk about the tools you need to start doing your makeup, for beginners especially. So we're going to talk about brushes, beauty blenders, all that good stuff. I got a request to redo that video, so that is what we're going to do today. And before we do that, kindly subscribe, share your thoughts in the comment section down below. I'll be reading all of them kama kawaida, and if you like the video, give it a big thumbs up. With no further ado, let us go straight into the video. Okay guys, so we're going to start off with the tools you need for your eye makeup, and then we move on to the face. So the first tool you need is a spoolie. This is just used to brush through your eyebrows before you start lining. You can as well use an older mascara, remove the brush in it, and then clean it out and use it as a spoolie. So the next brush you need is this very angled brush. This one is used to clean your eyebrows with a concealer. Make sure it is very angled and sharp around the edges. If it is not as sharp around the edges, you can use a bit of clear lash glue, and then press it in so it becomes very angled. And how you place the product on this brush is very important. Do it side to side. Do not dip the brush onto the product, because it's going to give a bit of residue at the tip of the brush, and you don't want that. And then you can, for the technique, you can do it horizontally or vertically. What I prefer, personally, is use it horizontally like this, because it leaves that line very crisp. A very clean line, that is what I normally go for. It's very easy to mess when you're placing the product vertically. And then make sure you drag your concealer down as you go, so it's easier for you to blend that later on. When it comes to setting the eyelids, you can just use your fingers to blend in the concealer, and for this, tap it in until it all blends in. Please remember, this is a beginner tutorial, so I'm going to leave as many tips for beginners as possible. And then when it comes to applying eyeshadow, start off with a small, round, fluffy brush. A very fluffy, small, round but fluffy brush. As you can see here, very fluffy. The bristles should be very soft and very easy to work with. And then for application, use circular motions and very little force. So always start off with a smaller brush, a small, round, fluffy brush. Use circular motions, very little force, from the outer corner going towards the inner corner. And then after that, because this is a beginner video, you don't need to buy a lot of brushes when you're starting off. You can just clean the first brushes, the brush you started off with, and then use it to blend in your second transition. But if you can afford a number of brushes, the second transition, use a bigger brush to blend in the second transition, as you can see here. Still round and fluffy, but a bigger brush than the one you started off with for your first transition. Sorry. Again, the technique is circular motions, very little force. And then after that, use the very same brush you use to clean your eyebrows for your cut crease region. And the trick here is, because this brush already has a product in it, it grabs onto the product you're going to use on your cut crease, especially for the shimmer. It grabs onto that shimmer, and it is very easy to apply after. So use the same brush you used to clean your eyebrows for that. And then you can use your finger to blend in the edges, or use a smaller brush. You don't need a brush to do your eyeliner, but for your falsies, you can use tweezers, or alternatively just use your fingers. And then the next important tool is an eyelash color. At first I thought it was just something you can go without, but it is very important. So for an eyelash color, just hold it as if the way you hold your scissors, and the side that is carved in, is the side that should be facing you. So what you do, you open it up, and then start from the outer corner going towards the inner corner like that until it is all in, and then press. So your natural lashes and your falsies join together. It does not look like two separate entities after you applied falsies. And that is all you need for your eye makeup. So moving on to the face, you don't need anything to do serum and moisturizer and primer. So for primer, make sure you tap it in so it is absorbed into the skin. And please remember, this is a video for the tools and a video dedicated to beginners. So after the primer has set, to apply foundation, you can either use a beauty blender or a brush. For beauty blender, make sure it is damp, and then squeeze out the excess water on the beauty. Please make sure you have squeezed out all of the water out of the beauty blender first before you start applying. If it is too wet, it is not going to blend the product in very well. So when it comes to foundation brush, they're normally angled on the surface. They have more of a flat surface on top than a round surface. They're normally angled. The texture is a very, very smooth, and they are not too fluffy. So when it comes to blending in using a foundation brush, tap it in. Start off from the cheeks going down. Avoid using fresh product around the under eye and the corners of the nose. And keep tapping until it all blends in. And another thing, little product goes a long way, so avoid using too much product. So for this other side of my face, I'm going to use a beauty blender, and again, a little product goes a very long way. So start off by blending from the cheeks going down. Avoid using fresh products around the under eye and the corner of the nose. And for the technique, tap it in. Tap it in until it all blends in. Do not drag your brush or your beauty blender around. So the difference is, I don't know if you can see the difference. This side I use a brush, on this other side I use a beauty blender. So the side where I use a beauty blender, the blend is more smooth. I don't know if you can tell. Then the side I use the brush. So the major difference between these two is, when it comes to a beauty blender, the beauty blender absorbs more product in. So you end up using a lot of product just because the beauty blender sucks it in. So, yeah. And then to blend in the concealer for highlighter, you can use an angled brush or a very small fluffy brush. And then for the technique, tap it in. For this side, I'm just going to use a brush, and the other side I'll be using a beauty blender, just so you tell on the difference. So tap, tap, tap. And then for this side, I am going to use the very same beauty blender I used to blend in the foundation. Next, for the tool you need to set the areas you highlighted, you can use the very same beauty blender you used. Use the side where there is product to dip on to the setting powder. And then after you have dipped that, make sure you blow off the excess powder on the beauty blender first before you use it to set. And for the application, just press it in until there is no residue of the setting powder on your face. And use it on all the areas you highlighted using the concealer. So when it comes to using powders with a brush, make sure you use a round fluffy brush. When it comes to powder application, use a round fluffy brush. So this side I'm going to set using the brush, and again, the difference, you see how light that set on the side of the brush is and how heavy the set on the side I use a beauty blender is. That is the difference between using a beauty blender and a brush to set. So when it comes to contour, because I'm doing powder contour, use a round fluffy brush. You see how fluffy this brush is? Use a round fluffy brush for any powder product you're going to use on your face. And we're just going to contour our cheekbones and our forehead. And make sure that brush is not too big, because it is going to apply the contour all over the cheek area, and you just want a small amount of it. So to contour your nose, you need a smaller brush, an angled smaller brush. It is not very rigid. This brush is not very rigid. It's not too rigid. It's just angled. A bit fluffy, but angled. So we're going to use the brush to line the contour, and then when it comes to blending in the contour, use a cleaner brush. This is a bit more fluffy, as you can tell. So use a cleaner brush, a bit fluffier, so it blends in that contour, and you avoid having harsh lines around your nose contour. And to apply blush, use a round fluffy brush. So next, to set in the whole face using a finishing powder, use a bigger fluffy brush. This is a round fluffy brush, but a bit bigger so you can set the whole face. So when it comes to highlighting, use a smaller fluffy brush to highlight. Any powder product, use fluffy round brush. And then for highlighting the nose again, I use a smaller brush to highlight the nose. You don't need a lot really. For eye makeup, you need only 3, the one to clean your brushes and eyeshadow and spoolie. And for the face, for beginners, I would recommend you start off by using a beauty blender because it's very, very flexible. You can use it to blend in foundation, blend in concealer, to set. It's very flexible. It's going to save you a lot of time and money. So that would be it from me today, guys. I hope you have learned something from this video. I'll be seeing you in the next video. Bye.